How's it going, everyone? Session here. Welcome to Final Fantasy XIV. We officially have ourselves the Savage predictions for Cruiserweight M4, aka M8 normal. So, when I first went through this fight, one of the most immediate things that came into my mind when I actually finished it was, I didn't really feel like that there was like a whole lot to reveal mechanically. Like they didn't really show us a bunch. We saw a good handful, but I feel like they're holding out on us like quite a lot actually, mechanically speaking. Don't get me wrong though, fight still has like its bite, and I'm cool with that. But I'm also so curious about what else that they could incorporate with this fight in the Savage variant, and I think that a lot of people are assuming that there's going to be like a checkpoint as well. So there is going to be like a two-parter, which I'm okay with too. Like it's fine. But I have so many questions about this fight in particular, so we'll try and cover it in each perspective that we kind of figured out. Now, before we even like start this, right, one of the immediate things that I did was look at the arena, right, and one thing I noticed is that we're in like a spatial like sky, you know what I mean? So very open-ended sky, and here's the thing, assuming that there is like a transition from a phase 1 to a phase 2 thing, like where are we going, because there's no, because like with Wicked Thunder you can actually see the platform that we would jump to going into phase 2. Like you actually would see that in the normal version, so predicting that was actually like pretty easy to figure out, but with this one I actually don't have a clue. So like I'm wondering if like, does the platform split into like a different location? Do we get jumped over to another location? Like I actually have no idea. If I had to make like an early prediction, I would say that the transition of the arena will change and we'll get something entirely different. And I think similar to Wicked Thunder, the boss will become like a gigantic boss, and we have to deal with it like in that kind of form. So like we'll see. Anywho, starting off with the poll. This is the AoE coming up. It's called Extraterrestrial Planet, or Pursuit rather, sorry. Extra Planet Pursuit, I can't English. That move is so cool. I love that a lot. So I feel like with the AoE, they're going to end up doing like a multi-hitting thing. So I'm curious to see how that's going to come into play, if they modify that at all, because it being like what it is like the design's fire. So, but I feel like they can actually like throw us for a loop and do like a multi-hitting attack. I'm not entirely too sure. Then we have the Great Divide Tank Buster, which this is actually going to be one of those really, really interesting tank busters, because my co-tank Ryu, homie, got in front of me and like he just ate the attack with me. It's a shared buster for sure, right? Which is cool, and it cleaves. Now here's my thing though, because there's no debuff associated, at least with the normal version with this, which is cool. But the fact that he actually like calls out the attack, it makes me wonder what the follow-up is for that, and I feel like they can do several variations on this. Firstly, I'm expecting it to be like either it has like a afterburner effect, so he'll cleave, it'll slam and hit the person in front, but that person has a vuln up, so you have to swap, and then it'll hit again for the same reason, and then you do like another swap. So I'm thinking like a double swap is in order for this, or it'll cleave like the tanks, but then there'll be like a follow-up on the party. But I think that move actually has like so much potential to be unique and different in a way that I don't even know how to like, think about it any further. So we'll see. Then we have Wolf's Rain, and this is actually such a cool looking ability to see. So the boss is going to end up splitting into different directions. Now my thing is very simple. I feel like there's going to end up being like, for lack of a better number, like 7 other locations of where these will spawn, and there's one that's safe. And you pretty much have to or even better yet, because the first cleave is all across the middle, you probably have to look at there'll be 8 AoEs. One will be like a fake, and then he'll jump to it, and then it kind of makes another one of the like other locations like safe to run to. So you'll dodge it, and then the other 7 spots will go off. But then he'll do the follow-up that we're going to see here very shortly, where he cleaves the entire thing, and that mechanic is actually like a push, which is very fascinating. So I'm very curious to see how that will come into combination as well. I can see it being quite a bit actually, so thankfully we can see it here again. So he'll actually pick one location to jump to where the clones are, and then he'll dash across. So most likely there's going to be like a follow-up on those, right, for the extra locations where they may appear, so we'll see. And then he'll let that fly off again. So I'm under the impression, at least, that there might be like a variation on how he mechanics it, does it move. So we'll see. Heaven's Earth is obviously a stack attack. It's pretty simple. I'm expecting it to be either like a 2-person light parties, like healers thing, or like a 8-person spread potential case scenario. But for a stack attack, it just seems like it makes sense. Or they'll follow that up during the Wolves Rain move too. That's like an opportunity I can expect to see. And then we actually have something very cool incoming, is Beckon Moonlight. And again, I'm looking at this and realizing that we're getting one of these really cool scenarios of like, oh look, like laser beam side cleaved, right? And I don't really know if we'll encounter like a, I'm trying to think about it actually. I feel like with that move we would encounter either like a debuff situation where you can't get hit by one, or the color of the weapon will change, because I have a really weird feeling that the color of the weapon might change, and it'll indicate like, oh yeah, like if it's blue it's the same side, but if it's like red or something it's the other side, you know what I mean? Because one thing about this fight is that there's elements of earth and wind ongoing during this, so I'm wondering if like that will have any effect to it. They could make that opportunity, get hit by the opposite color, don't get hit by the same color, something like that, So then we have Shadow Chaser, and this move is actually very interesting, but it also raises a lot of questions for me, because each ad, or clone rather, will Shadow Chase and do a line cleave forward, which means that obviously the middle is completely unsafe, where the sides are, but there's 5 positions that are safe, right? And my wonder is like, why 5? Because 5 is such an odd number, literally and metaphorically, with a party of 8 players to, like, why are we, like, what reason would there be for that, I actually have no idea. But if I had to make a prediction to it, I'm assuming that there's going to be something with like a stack and like a spread thing. So probably like 4 spreads into 1 stack, and then you have to just accordingly figure that location out in time while the ads are preparing. And most likely there's going to be a follow-up that we'll definitely see later on too, but that's the thought process, at least for now. And again, I'm just really looking forward to seeing how all this will translate in a Savage variation, because the normal version doesn't seem that difficult in comparison, but there's moments where it's kind of tough actually, so we'll see. Bare Fangs is where he brings up the actual things from his back, and then they start shooting laser beams, which is cool. And then Terrestrial Rage is like just baited AoEs underneath everybody's hitbox. Probably can't see this in the Savage version. And then has like a follow-up with the Heaven's Earth 2, which is cool. So I'm wondering how they'll incorporate that in Savage. My thought process is when he does either Shadow Chase, or he'll do the attacks where each of the ads are appearing and they cleave across the arena, if you have to deal with that while also baiting the donut or the AoEs underneath you, I'm actually seeing that as another opportunity as well. I'd be very curious to find out, but like I actually don't really have too much of a clue, so we'll have to wait and see. Next is Tactical Pack, and this is where we encounter like a little bit of an ad phase, if you will. Now, at least in this case scenario, putting these two together just makes sense, but it also makes sense to separate them, since mechanical execution will be like the tough thing to figure out. And I'm wondering like what that's going to indicate. It almost makes me remember myself of like when I was going through this in like 012 with Omega, where you might get like either a combination of like they got to be either together or separated from each other, right? That's like an option. The other option could be that they actually have a debuff or like a buff thing, and you can only target one of the two, and like your efforts get put onto fighting that thing. What that could be, again, completely unsure, but I think the opportunity is there for a myriad of options to choose from, so we'll see. But the simple case of this scenario, right, is like we have to kill this as quickly as possible because he's charging up the inevitable thing. Now, I think what I've noticed too is, at least once I got to this portion, the wind ads mostly do a lot of spread stuff, and the earth one does a lot of stack. And I think that pattern actually kind of holds a lot of water with this fight in mind too, which I think is great. So I'm wondering how are they going to make that work in combination going into the Savage version, because if you don't know, Fenrir is the Esper that we deal with in FF9, and Fenrir is, well, normally like an ice elemental based primal or Esper, summon if you will. In FF9 it's actually fire, or sorry, not fire, earth and wind, which is exactly what we're seeing here. So I'm not sure that there's going to be a different element in mind for this, but I would be very curious to see if that does translate one way or another. Not entirely too sure yet, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, after this though, if you notice, the arena got smaller as a result, right? So actually you can get pushed off now. And so Wolf's Ring comes out, and then he does the follow-up again, but then there's Dragon Head follow-ups, and then unfortunately, now you're actually able to fall off. The arena actually will not let you fall off in the beginning because the arena has shrunken, but this time though it actually is smaller as a result, so you can fall off. And then of course, who would have thought that our favorite game of Slices Right is actually listed here in the Savage Raid mechanic for sure. You know, that opportunity seems a little like hilarious, but you know, you're bound to run into something unique for this. But here's my thing, because I don't really know how they could savage this mechanic. The only thing I can think of is you add like another one, right? And I think the way that the cuts might indicate one safe spot or two, depending on what it is, and you probably have to deal with like a spread or a stack of some variation. Like, again, not entirely sure in the slightest, but I can actually see like a variety of opportunities for this as well. So like, we'll find out, you know. But I love that they've incorporated a mechanic like this where there's like a little bit of like, you know, reactive variance to it as well. I think that's like some of my favorite content to see in a Savage Raid for sure. And then I think from this point forward, it is going to be just a combination of similar mechanics, right? We got the AoE, we got a tank buster, there's going to be inevitable like Slices Right yet again, right? We got a whole like just sling of mechanics on the way. So, but that's the thing though, right? Because like for me, that's it. Like, I don't think that there's anything else. Now, I didn't notice this until until after we actually went back again, but the boss actually has a buff on their target list, which makes me wonder, like, what's it there for? I think, if anything, because I actually wouldn't know for sure, you know. So my thought process is this now. I'm thinking that the boss has an attack that they will use and imbue themselves with an element much more so than another, so that, you know, it'll do earth and wind, but because it's earth and wind, it'll be having a follow-up like this. So if it's earth, it'll have a different follow-up, or if it's wind, it'll have a specific one in that kind of case scenario. So I can see that being the thing that they actually put in the fight as well. So, because then we have this version of Earth, of like Heaven's Earth, which is called like Tracking Tremors, and it's a multi-stack attack, right? So I feel like what they're doing is by having Howling Blade have two different elements, it'll actually change how the mechanic is executed if he's not imbued or if he is imbued with one or the other. So it literally creates an opportunity for three different mechanics within one single mechanic, which I think that's awesome. So I'd love to see how that actually comes into play. I'm not entirely too sure, but I'd be excited to find out more about this as we kind of get there. And again, Terrestrial Rage is the Earth follow-up on this, right? So there's like line attack, everyone's getting put AoEs underneath them. Got to play a big game of dodgeball, and then the follow-up AoE. So, but that's it though. Like, once you reach this part of the fight, the fight doesn't feel lackluster or anything. It's just hard to know from like a Savage variant, like, what do they do in this fight? Because I think that they're actually hiding so much than we may expect in like another version. You know what I mean? And of course, because like there's a whole phase 2. And I think this makes sense too, because again, like, mini spoiler per se, but the reward that you get for defeating this boss, normally there's like a minion, like a equestrian roll and some gear. This time there's no minion. So I feel like the minion is either going to be some kind of not like a spoiler per se, but at least like a hint as to the second phase. And so they hid that away so that you didn't have to like worry about that being like the case scenario. But again, like I digress. I have no idea. But again, there's really not that much else going on. Now again, was there a lot to see in this fight? Like, of course, but also at the same time, like not really though, because a lot of the mechanics are just like taken like in separate like forms, and then eventually they're just combined together, and then they kind of create the chaos. like, I'm wondering what's the mechanic that we're going to encounter in the Savage version that's going to be like the wall, if you will, you know? Could it be the ad phase? Potentially. It could be like another mechanic we haven't even seen. Not exactly sure in any case scenario, but it won't take away the fact that this fight is awesome. So again, I'm so curious to see what they can do. My biggest grievance is that I feel like that there's so much missing in this version. Because M7 did a lot of showcasing, even though I still don't know what else they can do to it, like from like a mechanical, like, difficulty perspective. M6, I can see several things, and M5 as well. But this fight, I really don't know. So, like we'll see, honestly. Because I kind of expect there to be, again, some kind of, like, just some modification made. Because the ground, you know, the ground's very particular. It's like a platform thing. None of the other things that are floating in the sky have, like, they almost look like a lid you can pop open and see, like, in an arena thing, you know? But, like, this is what it looks like. So I really want to know, like, what are we actually looking for in this fight to expect in Savage for phase 1 and for phase 2? Like, that's what, like I really have no clue. But what I will say is I'm unbelievably excited to find out more about this, because they absolutely cooked so well with this tier. Mechanically, this is the most fun tier it's been in like a very long while. I'm expecting the difficulty to ramp up dramatically, or at least, like, I hope it stays very difficult, as they've mentioned, because they did say that they plan on making the raid tier like a step up in difficulty, considering what it was in the first raid tier with the light heavyweight division. So I'm thinking that Cruiserweight is actually going to be like a big step up, which I think it should be, and I'm very hyped to find out more about that. So, and I hope you are as well. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and listen, we only have a couple of days between now and the release of Savage, so it's going to be a fun time for a lot of us for a really good while of time, and I hope you're looking forward to it. So thank you for watching, and take care of yourself. Do stay hydrated and be sure to get ready, because we have ourselves quite the raid tier ahead of us. So thank you for watching. I'll see you then.